Hello, everybody. Brian. Break Sick Education. I want to try to do weekly, but with the job hunt and everything, and we were supposed to be on yesterday. Sorry, it's Wednesday. I know. Don't adjust your calendars. It's definitely Wednesday. It's a Wednesday type of day. Um, it's been an interesting 3 weeks being without work. Well, being without typical work, right? Still learning on the job as I go about how to interview and to hang out and help recruiters understand me and sell me and tell them why I'm the best person for the job. So glad you all could join me here today for a lovely chat. Hope everyone is doing well and doing safe. I have noticed, not a weather report or anything, but somebody kind of mentioned it and alluded to it on LinkedIn today. Kristen Fike, if you aren't not aware of who she is, she's fairly active as a recruiter. So Kristen Fike, there we go. Um, Talking about how the ebb and flow of the holiday season is with hiring. And, next week is the Thanksgiving holiday for the U.S. Americans. Canadians had theirs back in October, of course. The rest of the world is like Thursday and Friday, right? For a lot of you, you get Thursday and Friday off next week, which is great. And then it's, you get a couple weeks. And then for most people, like I was in a heavy development environment, the last 2 weeks of the year is pretty much kind of a wash, right? She had mentioned the fact that because certain types of jobs tend to not do anything in the second half of the year, you're not putting out features, you're not putting out releases, you're not doing a ton of work. It gives the opportunity for hiring managers who are looking for people to review resumes, do the hiring and whatever that they might need for the first of the year. So it's a very positive thought there with regards to finding a position or if you're looking for a job. As a matter of fact, my lovely wife actually interviewed for a position today, which she hadn't had a bite in a couple of months. So it was good to see her interviewing for something and people taking an interest in her. She's far smarter than I am, of course. So I would like to see her gainfully employed as well as me. So um, people are missing out on her expertise. So um, Miss Berlin, Mr. Betcher would have been here. Mr. Betcher was out. It was a Wednesday, so it was a different day than the Tuesday we'd all agreed on. And Miss Berlin got pulled into a meeting, so I can't begrudge her work. I want her to continue working, of course, at Blue Mira. And so, yeah, we're just working. It's just going to be me today. Sorry. Um, and yeah, so I have my earbuds on, or my. I actually like these things, the bone conduction bits. I thought I wouldn't, but they're just loud enough that I can hear music, which is great. And been using them for training and something. The problem is they don't seem to pick up for certain videos when there's been silence. It's almost like they shut off or there's a soft stop. So you may miss the first syllable of the word. So if you're like hearing until, you might hear till, and it's like, oh, okay, it's kind of annoying, but you get used to it after a while. For things that are constantly sending noise, like music, which we might hear a little background music here from chill hop music during our discussion of the news and what have you, they work pretty good. So plus, they don't completely plug my ears, so I don't have to worry about that. Um, okay, so we have some news. There's actually been quite a bit of news, and I do want to take the time to thank. Let me see. All right, let me go and find that. There is a news feed that I have been really, really impressed with the last couple weeks. Yes. Um, so this site, security-24-7.com. There we go. Really, really interesting news collection site, if you will. The subscription costs nothing, and they send you news stories of note, various. Oh, wait, there we go. They send you interesting subscriptions of note if you're interested in application security or malware security or security patch management or vuln management. Cloud, FinOps, specific articles or news about various things. You can, sign up for these things. I think I've signed up for mostly the security feed. Let me see what we get here. Yeah. Um, this is the one I've hooked up to. It's actually connected to Google Groups, so you also have to have a login for that. Uh, if you want to, and it costs nothing to sign up for. And you get regular stuff that gets added. I'm assuming it's a bot of some kind, but this person does a really good job of curating their news and finding interesting articles that you may not get from normal feeds, and they're not just necessarily from specific places. Like some of these places I've never heard of, like Quokka. So there's interesting news. So yeah, definitely go check out that site if you are interested. I will post that also into the YouTube chat, which if you're watching on YouTube, thank you. I am trying to keep track of both chat systems now because some of you do enjoy the YouTube more than the Twitch. So I appreciate both of you. I do have this article actually here, the security researcher that calls BS on Coinbase's breach disclosure timeline. I have that one in my list here. I also have a not security related item that I thought was kind of hilarious. So we'll get through that one. One that just came out before I just hit submit. I saw it on LinkedIn, which is why I'm posting it from LinkedIn. All of the news about the AI bubble, being somewhat bigger than the dot-com bubble. Rest assured, no problems. NVIDIA just posted that things are better, right? Their CEO Jensen, I'm going to say Soft J, maybe Jensen Huang, Huang, the CEO of NVIDIA. Let's just go that route. And before I apologize to the CEO of NVIDIA. If you want to talk, I'm more than willing to listen. If you want to hire me or whatever. Touted that their Blackwell chip sales are off the charts, quote unquote. So you can, I'm sure there's a lovely video here where they're talking about that. So they're beating the expected estimate for their EPS, which for EPS is EPS. It's a measure of a company's profitability calculated by dividing quarterly or annual income minus the dividends, if they give dividends. And NVIDIA does give dividends, very, very tiny ones. Like they're giving a penny away in terms of dividends by the number of outstanding stock shares. The higher a company's EPS, the greater the profit and value perceived by investors. So instead of we expected $45 a share, $45 per share, and it was instead 47. They're using this as a better indicator of their revenue. So they said it was the EPS landed at $1.30 US, $1.30, matching adjusted EPS and surpassing the estimate expected of $1.24. So currently, everything is, I wouldn't say good. I would say it's holding steady or it's reversed itself. They had a nice graphic in here. What the hell is this? I don't want that. Oh, here it is. Okay, so NVIDIA's growth revenue. So it went, bonkers, completely batshit crazy in the fourth quarter of 2024 and the first quarter of this year. So they're looking at, projected. It looks like it's continuing to go down for the next couple quarters, but they're saying revenue growth for the future because that's the point. They want to see that things are increasing after a while. So we're going to see a little bit of a downturn in the second quarter 2026, a little bit less in Q1, but by Q3 they're expecting that to go back up. They say the data marks a reversal from earlier quarters when revenue beats margins had fallen to less than 2% as analyst models caught up with this explosive AI-driven growth. Investors will now be watching whether this fresh update marks a new acceleration phase or a temporary spike before growth steadies again. So they're wanting to, you know, they've got a first up. Now they need to see an additional up, right? So they need this 62.5 to go back up to say 70 or something like that, or their revenue growth. So they're expecting a compaction or a contraction in some cases, and that could be because first and second quarters may be a little on the slow side. There might be some people that decided to hold off buying, in the second quarter of 2026 or when they were expected to take delivery in 2026, which is why they're seeing the downturn 6 months from now. But so yeah, that's take it as you will. I don't know. Let me see what the comments say down here. I'm not sure this is a surprise. They have sales through 2026. The question is 2027. So even, some of the AI infrastructure, hyperscaler, nuclear technology folks, like this guy here and this other folk, how booked product revenue versus GPUs and production plays going forward. Power supply seems to be long-term elephant in the room. Low cost and constant power production is always key to economic growth, right? So yeah, they're wanting longer term projections, right? So they're expecting this AI, uncertainty to maybe continue at least through the second quarter of 2026. I'm sure the industry insiders are going to see reports and other things that are going to tell them whether or not NVIDIA is going to fall off. Right now, it's what I don't want to say what concerns me is that, but it's what interests me is that other chip makers can't get involved here. You have CPU-based AI, you have GPU-based AI, but NVIDIA seems to be the only person that they're using as a bellwether for this. Based on AMD's stuff or Intel's stuff or any other chip maker that creates a GPU. So one company's revenue growth is only one point of data, right? So we'll see what happens. I don't know if that's if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but basing an entire industry on one company's growth or one company's revenue numbers just doesn't give me a warm fuzzy. So yeah, I mean, NVIDIA could sell bonkers of GPU, but if companies that are invested heavily in AI can't turn a profit with their AI offerings, all of the profit that NVIDIA has in the world is not going to overturn whatever the AI bubble is that is coming. So yeah, just a thought there. You wanna take a look at that, you can. Let me post that link up and you can follow along. They're actually updating it as we go. So I mean, this was updated 33 seconds ago. Let me refresh it again here. 15 minutes ago. Okay, so they finally hit upon the better option here. All right, there you go. You can check that out. All right. So yeah, go check out 24 security-24-7.com. You can go and get some subscriptions for that. I'm gonna turn on my music here. Shell Hop Winter Essentials. Yeah. Keeps me grounded when I'm sitting here trying to find a job, so it's very helpful. And if you're lurking, welcome. Oh, let me, by the way, go check activity feed. Yes. YOLO Congo 98, thank you for following. Real Onsi, thank you for resubscribing at tier 1. They've, I think he subscribed and was talking on the last chat that we had. So thank you, Bill, for supporting our stream. Also, because I'm out of work, if you want to be nice and maybe give me a Christmas present, I wouldn't hate a subscription. Wouldn't hate a Patreon support, if you will. If you want to support us on Patreon, you can do that too. If you are, if you come in here regularly and you're lurking, subscriptions are great. I love you, and I will definitely give you props whenever they pop up. So Just keep an eye out on that. Turn off the chat. I really am not a fan of the chat, but I love the chill hop radio. So if you can indulge me there for that, that would be great. Okay, so so if you got work done yesterday, perhaps it's because Cloudflare was out, or if you didn't get any work done yesterday, maybe it was because Cloudflare was out. On the heels, or I was on the heels, but you know, if you're in US East 1 and using Cloudflare, you've had a bad couple of weeks, maybe there. Or if you're anywhere else in you know, in a cloud and you have to use Cloudflare for whatever reason, Cloudflare went down, and people were yelling probably DNS again, but that was not the case. From what I understand from this document that was written by Matthew Prince, who is the CEO of Cloudflare. Let's not mince words. He didn't write this. His people did, and they collated it, and the PR folks made it pretty, and then they posted it. So this is a blog post about the after action that occurred of the outage, and it's interesting. It's very much an outage. I would say in a similar vein to the CrowdStrike stuff. Not a patch that got updated. Kind of like a patch. I guess I should backtrack a little bit. There was an update to a configuration on a system that caused the outage. So in this case, it was triggered by change in one of our database system's permissions, which caused this database to output multiple entries into a feature file used by our bot management system. That feature file in turn doubled in size, and then once the feature file got large, that caused an issue with the configuration file or the feature file that the system didn't like, and it choked, and that's where the error occurred. So, so they made a change to a database system's permission, caused the database to output multiple entries into a feature file. So, you know, whatever that means. Feature file doubled in size, larger than expected file was then propagated to all machines that make up the network. Software running to route traffic across the network reads this feature file to keep our bot management system up to date with ever-changing threats. So they had an IP address maybe, or they added some kind of specific filtering or regex or something like that to block harmful traffic, to, you know, maybe remove certain types of traffic from certain ranges, like a spam house kind of block. When that happened, the software has a limit on the size of the feature file that was below its doubled size, and that caused the software to fail. I think that's probably good that this happened for Cloudflare, and please, it was bad, but this could have happened naturally over time, depending on how often if they trim the file, if they are airplanes. Oh, looks like you can't see it anyway. There are planes flying over. My apologies if you hear that. This would have happened because there's a bug in the system, right? If the file size gets above 25K, the system doesn't know how to read that big a file, and it's going to choke. So it's unfortunate that that is the way the file ended up showing up. Maybe this was a known issue, like, hey, you know, if this file ever gets this big, it's going to crash, it's going to fail, we're going to have problems. Hey, Walt, just back from the British Pantry in Redmond. Okay, all right, very cool. British Pantry. Okay. Oh, I've heard of this place. Yes. That's on the 202. Yes. Or just off the 202, 161st Avenue Northeast. Okay. Okay. Very nice. Did you get a fry up? Get a fry up. See, what do they have? They have lunch menu. Okay. Cheeseburgers. Okay, not very English. Stilton. Hey, Stilton. Gotta love that. English blue cheese. Smoked salmon. All right. Cheese and crackers. Oh, those are the appetizers. Okay, soup and salad. What are the mains? What are the mains? Here we go. Fish and chips. Yeah. Large fish and chips. Yeah. Lancashire pasty. Okay. The fish and chips. You can't go wrong with fish and chips. If they can't do a fish and chips right, that's fine. They do it in cod, which is excellent, by the way. One of the best fish and chips I've ever had was in New Zealand. God, that was in 2007. That's just how much I remember that. Sitting in some podunk nowhere town, I think in, let's say Napier, I want to say someplace like that. But watching a netball game, which for those of you who are from that area or understand what netball is, or maybe the EU, watching the netball game, having some cod and chips. And it was just fantastic. I don't know if it was because we were in friggin' New Zealand when it was happening, but it's okay. Sausage rolls, yeah. One of the things that I was looking forward to when I was still working at Amazon was our on-sites. And luckily, one of the on-sites that we did with Amazon was in Dublin. And, I got to enjoy everything that Dublin had to offer, their donuts and their coffee and their food, which was fantastic. And I was trying to push our team to go back to Dublin or go to London so we could go to a proper curry house or what have you. So bangers and mash, can't go wrong with that. Sherry chicken, okay. Can't go wrong with a burger either. I mean, but if you want something more legitimate, they have to have other things. Sherry trifle, fruit pies, yeah. Cheese, they have a cheese plate. That's not too bad. Sticky toffee pudding, yeah, I got that. Oh, a scone. Yes, gotta have a scone. That's just a biscuit. It's just a biscuit. They call them scones. It's okay. The cream and the jam would make it excellent. I'm not sure why they would call that a dessert, but okay. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that, Walt. I hope you had a good. Walt, did anything come from that job I sent you? I don't know if you applied to that or if you were able to, do that. You can hit me offline otherwise, but yeah. After we wrongly suspected symptoms we were seeing were caused by a hyperscale DDoS attack. Okay, so I thought it was a DDoS attack myself before I read this after action report. I was like, maybe they finally had a DDoS that they couldn't protect against because they've had huge every time they put out a blog post or news articles, but we've stopped the largest DDoS to date, 1.8 terabits per second or some shit like that. I thought maybe they had a DDoS they hadn't protected against. It said, we correctly identified the core issue and were able to stop the propagation of the larger than expected feature file and replace it with an earlier version of the file. Core traffic was largely flowing as normal as of 2:30 in the afternoon PM. I'm assuming all times are Pacific, but I could be wrong. I'd have not heard. Yeah, some companies are like that. I want to say the recruiter's fairly diligent about certain. I don't know if it's because of the certain job types, but just keep heart and hopefully they'll get back to you. But seems like it'd be a good fit for you, in that case. So they did version control. They pushed the older version of the file that wasn't double the size. They need to figure out why the database added things to that management file as well, because they can't just update the database. I find that interesting. The database was able to make changes to that file. So the database systems permissions, which cause the database to output multiple entries to a feature file. So the database spit out some kind of automated formatted file or appended entries to a feature file. So what stopped the database from doing that? They probably had to back out some things that they had put in the database as well. I think it was good that they found this like this, because what if they needed to add those regexes or those filters to that file because they were under active attack or under active DDoS attack, and that caused what equivalent to a DDoS was, right? So in my opinion, having this failure when maybe it was not such a big deal is probably a good thing. right? They're learning, and they fixed it, hopefully. They are sorry. It says we are sorry for the impact to our customers and the internet in general. Great. Given Cloudflare's importance in the internet ecosystem, any outage of our systems is unacceptable. That there was a period of time where our network was not able to route traffic is painful to every team member. We know we let you down today. Oh, see, that's interesting words from a CEO. I'm sure the PR folks were like, we need to massage this and make it nice. Sounds like he wanted to be real with people instead of saying we care about your security and privacy like most PR companies throw out there with their playbooks. This is somewhat legit. Here's the traffic. Did I post? Yes, I did. Okay. You see, it got really ugly for about 90 minutes, and then it got better slowly over time, which is great. And it looks like it was almost completely fixed by 1700. I'm assuming that's PST, or Pacific Standard Time, or Pacific Time. We're not in daylight savings, so yeah. So it's cool. They give you he gives more explanation. Spike and fluctuations show our system failing due to loading the incorrect feature file. My guess is that these were happening more and more often as the system was propagating across, right? Following full propagation around what, an hour or 2 hours later, and then boom, everything went ugly. And then they probably figured it out right around 2 o'clock, and then they started noticing a severe drop-off. So, file was generated every 5 minutes by a query running on a ClickHouse database cluster. Okay, which is being gradually updated to improve permissions management. That data was only generated if the query ran on a part of the cluster which had been updated. All right. This fluctuation made it unclear what was happening as the entire system would recover and fail again, as sometimes good, sometimes bad files were distributed to the network. Wow. Okay. Initially, this led us to believe it might be caused by an attack, right? Eventually, every ClickHouse node was generating the bad config file, and the fluctuation stabilized in the failing state. Okay, so it was working, it wasn't working, it was working, it wasn't working, it wasn't working, and then it went, oh, it's fixed, and everybody's like, okay, no. It's almost like a roller coasters, like, yay, we're having fun. No, we're not. Yes, we are. No, we're not. Errors continued until the issue was identified starting at 1430. We solved the problem by stopping the generation and the propagation of the bad feature file, inserting a known good file in the file feature distribution queue. I think that's good because they originally thought it was a DDoS attack, then they thought it was a hypervisor issue, then they figured out that it was this file that was getting propagated every so many minutes. So they had to go through, well, what's running every 5 or every 15 minutes that's causing this propagation issue. They had enough information and enough SMEs on hand to diagnose this properly and figure out what was going on. And of course, here's all the impacted services: email services, access, auth failures, turnstile, whatever that is. If you're using Cloudflare, you know what these things are. Core CDN and security services getting 500 status codes. That's right. You're trying to get to X, I think, during that time, or ChatGPT, I think, was down as well, which was another big one. I think that's why it was like, oh my God, ChatGPT is down. So if you were using ChatGPT at your organization and you couldn't get any answers out of it, that could have been why. So there's lessons learned here. Here's the core proxy. Here's how everything works, okay? Bot management includes a machine learning model that we use to generate bot scores for every request traversing our network. Our customers use bot scores to control which bots are allowed to access their site or not. Okay, so they put in maybe a bot that maybe they had some issues. The database didn't like the entry and caused it to have a large number of duplicate feature rows. Okay, change our underlying querying behavior. Explained below. Okay, so they're going to show us how to query behavior properly. Query all data, so-called distribution tables, in a database called default. Database queries underlying in R0. Wow, he's really getting deep here on this. ClickHouse users would only see the tables in the default database when querying table metadata from the ClickHouse system, such as system tables or system columns. They made the change at 11:05 to make this access explicit so that users can see the metadata of these tables as well, making sure that all distributed queries can run under the initial user, query limits, and access grants can be evaluated. Okay, that makes sense. Select name and type from columns where, okay. Notice how the query does not filter the database name. Okay. The database started returning duplicates of columns because those were for the underlying table stored in the R0 database. All right. So I don't know who makes this query, if it was a human or if it was a automated system, but that's an interesting fix that needs to be done. Yeah, the above query would return a number of columns like the ones displayed. However, part of the additional permissions granted to the user, the response now contained all the metadata of the R0 schema, effectively more than doubling the rows in the response. Wow, this must be a large table, right? Or it's not a large table, there's just a lot of data in the schema itself, which, maybe the feature file is 10K and, once it hits 25K, things start choking on it or something. There you go. Currently the limit is set to 200, well above our around 60 features. Again, the limit exists because for performance reasons, we pre-allocate memory for the features. Okay, so they pre-allocate for 60 or 70. They got 200. Obviously it chokes because it read everything it could into the existing pre-allocated memory space, and then it's like, there's still more to process, but we don't have any more memory. Crash, right? At least that's what I'm understanding here. And then it just snowballed from there, right? So you're seeing almost flip this in reverse, or flip it upside down. From 11:30 to 13:10 was due to worker KV. This was restored at 13:10. Second period of impact occurred after restoring the feature configuration data. Okay, so now they're gonna hardening ingestion Cloudflare generated config files. They're gonna enable more global kill switches for features. That's cool. Eliminating the ability for core dumps or other error reports to overwhelm system resources. Reviewing feature modes for error conditions across all core proxy modules. Yeah, I mean, if they didn't get any kind of notification that, hey, your file size, we've added 150,000 new lines to this feature file or something, if they just blindly pushed it across, then you may run into some kind of issue. So this is the worst outage since 2019. Okay. And then they have a timeline. So this is really nice. This is a good write-up. If you are an IR, if you're a company who just went through an IR, this is how you should do things, in my opinion. Be completely transparent and give a little of the behind the curtain that's going on, and talk about how you're going to do better. You don't have to put this out publicly, like Cloudflare did, but because Cloudflare is pretty much a well-known company, there's something you can put in an email and send out to your customers, send out to internal teams. This is why this went down. Here's the reasons why. Here's what we're doing about it to make sure it doesn't happen again, etc. And this is a great response. So good on Cloudflare for being this transparent, including the timeline, which is probably the biggest part of it. Which you need to have a timeline when you're running incident response. This is what happened. This was the activity. We brought in senior engineers to do blah. We brought in a principal to do this. We notified leadership of blah. We sent out the email or notifying people of the outage. Currently being triaged. Status page on the website got updated, etc. So, yeah. Let me see. What was the? Okay, so this is the longest bit of time it looks like. 11:32 to 13:05. They were investigating elevated traffic levels and errors to the KV service. And then, yeah, everything after that, after they figured out about 13:05, went real quick. So 13:05, 13:37, they rolled back the configuration management file, the last known good. An hour later, stopped creation and propagation of the bot management configuration files. Test the new file complete. So they did test their solution before they pushed it in production to make sure that it wouldn't overwhelm the system again. And 6 minutes later, downstream impact resolved. So they started noticing drop off almost as soon as they pushed that file. That's great. All right. And then they kept at it and for another roughly 3 hours and then said, okay, we're all good. I'm sure there was a threshold they must have met before they said, yeah, this is no longer an incident. Well, pretty cool. If you want to read more about this, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of discussions. Yeah, so there's going to be a ton of opinions and people talking about this on Hacker News. If you want to go check that out as well. Let's see. So this one was interesting. So Tom's Hardware. You can read this story. There it is. Manufacturer issues a remote kill to disable a smart vacuum because an engineer figured out that it was collecting data about their house. And the user revised it with custom hardware and a Python script to run offline. Some sort of smart vacuum, iLife A11 smart vacuum, worked, monitored network traffic. So the engineer got curious about how his vacuum works, which that's how hackers work, right? And monitored the network traffic coming from the device. That's when he noticed it was sending logs and telemetry data to the manufacturer, something he hadn't consented to. So there was a privacy requirement. I don't know how to say this, so I'm just going to say this. He may not have consented to it, but he probably consented to it, either by dint of running the app and registering the device. You got that big long pile of stuff that nobody reads that probably says, yeah, you're going to send us this data. Kind of interesting there. The reaction from the company is what's odd. Instead of blocking, when the engineer blocked the telemetry server's IP addresses, kind of like when Windows 10 came out and everybody's like, oh, they're getting all our telemetries. Let's add a bunch of IP addresses and URLs to your firewalls and black hole and everything goes to 127.0.0.1. Nothing happened there, but unfortunately in this case, somebody at the company noticed that his vacuum was not sending telemetry, and he discovered somebody had sent a kill command to his device, which means whatever connection that the vacuum has to the company works in both directions, through the update function maybe, or through maybe it's like a smart bed where it had open SSH, or an open SSH connection back to the company. He went to the service center with it because maybe he didn't realize. I think at the time he didn't realize that there was a remote command being sent. So he takes it to the service center. They plug it in. They turn it on. It starts working. So he's like, okay, great. So he wasn't understanding the connection that, oh, I black hole the telemetry to A11, they're going to shut me off. Now, I don't know why they would do that, but they're doing it. After several rounds of back and forth, Service Center probably got tired and just stopped accepting it, saying he was out of warranty. Because of this, he decided to disassemble the thing to determine what killed it and see if it could get working again. So yeah, it has all kinds of sensors, LiDAR, gyroscopes. Okay, I don't know what you're saying with that. Okay. So this is the innards of the A11 robot vacuum. So there you go. He looked at the software and operating system. That's where he discovered the truth. His smart vacuum was a security nightmare. That goes without saying. ADB's running on it, obviously. Gives him full access to the vacuum. So it's running some sort of Android version. Don't know how old it is. He used Google Cartographer to build a live 3D map of his home. And of course, that's pretty much standard, I think, for a lot of robot vacuums. They have to run around and map the interior of your house so that they know where the walls are or whatever. Smart vacuum, it needs to navigate around the home, right? However, concerning thing was it was sending all the data back to the manufacturer's servers. Again, I can't say that that's a bad thing, because if you have an app, you pull up the app on your phone or whatever, and it's going to, you're going to want to see the picture of your house and, what its course is going to be. Maybe you're looking at it remotely and you're like, yeah, okay, I don't want it to do the kitchen this time, so I'll block the kitchen off. So it'll say, oh, okay, bypass that tray, that track to go through the kitchen, or what have you. So he did look in the logs, which I'm assuming he got through the ADB, the bridge, the debug bridge, and he found a command with a timestamp that matched exactly the time the gadget started working. It was clearly a kill command. Now, I don't know how he clearly figured out it was a kill command unless it said, kill-hup vacuum or something. I don't know. Maybe it was a value, maybe it was a code or an error code or something that would like brick the vacuum. Technicians would reset the firmware on the vacuum, removing the kill code, then connecting it to an open network, making it run normally, right? So once they did a hard reset, everything was fine, right? Because the telemetry servers aren't blocked. The one thing I'm wondering is, why would they issue the kill command if the telemetry servers weren't working? Could they see that as could the business see that as a safety issue? Like maybe if you were, maybe it stores the route on the servers remotely, and then the vacuum pulls that information and says, okay, I'm going to run my program. I need I need the map, or I need the data from the house. Everything's all calibrated. I mean, unfortunately, other smart vacuums use similar hardware. It's not far-fetched to think that they have the same setup. What is going on with this guy? What is this thing? Looks like snowshoes, but for the water. I don't even know what to do with that. Meaning that they'll send the data to some faraway server for processing, right? Maybe they're doing that on purpose, like a KML file or something. Because your information being offboarded to another device outside your control, you have no idea what's happening to it, giving the manufacturer free rein to use it as it pleases. Yeah, I don't know what iLife's terms and conditions or privacy policy is. So in the end, he was able to run his vacuum locally without the manufacturer control after all the tweaks he made. This helped him retake control of his data and make use of his $300 software brick smart device on his own terms. It's not the first time we've seen this, actually. I have another article about a smart thermometer, but I also think, let me see. I'm trying to remember. The article I'd read was that first and second generation that have been bricked or are no longer smart, somebody figured out how to enable them again. Yeah, here we go. So if you have these, which I think I actually have this one, maybe, it would end support for first and second generation on October 25th, 2025, which happened about 15 days ago. One Reddit user says they're building a local website or server to restore functions and may build a remote app if there's enough traction. So, right to repair. Okay, all these fucking videos. Yeah, so, I mean, that's how old these are, from 2011, 2012. Mine still works great. I don't have a problem with mine. I don't actually, change the thing with my home setup, or, ask it to, do its thing. I have a thing over here. I don't want it to say anything to me. But once these things go, end of life, there's nothing stopping a Ring or a Google or a Siri or whatever to stop working. Or your Apple TV stop working because it stops responding to voice commands, or it stops responding to home automation functions or API calls. So, This Reddit user says they're working on a project that will allow you to restore the exact same functionality without needing Nest or Google servers, which is kind of cool. Because once they can do that, they can expand this to other things. And I want to say they were working on some kind of custom firmware for these as well that you could, throw up a firmware patch on GitHub, which talks with the backend that I've set up. The only caveat is you won't be able to use existing Nest and Google Home app, but I'm including a website or local server, so you could put on like maybe a Raspberry or something like that. Something Linuxified that will connect across the network through a broadcast address or something like that. And my guess is it creates an API, or it accesses the APIs that are still available on your Google Nest thermometers to set up. So if anyone has their existing Nest set up with Home Assistant and would like to test it when it's ready, I'd appreciate it, as it should work with Home Assistant. Here's a link to that. There you go. Right. GitHub repo. Let's take a look at the GitHub repo. There's nothing wrong with the thermometer. It just, for whatever reason, Google wants to turn it off and make you buy something new. And maybe that's the problem. It's not new enough, and Google wants you to spend more money. Do not use this firmware on any thermostat critical for your heating or cooling needs. Now that is a point. If you're in the dead of winter, don't try to use this until maybe you can support yourself in the spring or early summer. This has blown up way more than I expected. This was thrown together in a couple days, so still very new and a work in progress. But if you are okay with trying that, you can give that a shot. They have a drop-in PCB replacement option. Interesting. Interesting. Oh, I see. Okay. What do we got going on here? Okay, so these are the different wires when you're setting everything up with your system. Instead of using like a Honeywell or something, you're gonna plug your various bits into these. So white to aux. I'm sure it's like an Ethernet cable. So you have orange stripe, orange, green stripe, blue stripe, green, brown stripe, brown, right? But there's 10 different colors, or 10 striped or not striped or whatever. So like OB, so this is orange blue, bluish orange maybe, green, red hazel, red brown, I don't know, RH is, it could be relative humidity as well, but yeah. So, cool, and it's only $147. It's a little pricey, I won't lie to you here. Go back here. So ideally, Linux computer available. Mac OS can also be used. Some people had difficulties. Windows should be able to use MingW or Cygwin, but your mileage may vary. Okay, so you have to have a Linux computer. Raspberry would be, what most home tinkers would probably use. You can always pick up a ThinkCenter and put, Debian or Ubuntu on it, or whatever the hundreds of Linuxes is available. Okay, he's using Debian. Okay, you can also use Mac OS, libUSB, right? Okay. OMAP loader tool to build the script, detect your operating system, and build accordingly. All right. Putting your Nest device in DFU mode. So DFU is DFU device firmware update. So you're going to flash something to your thermostat, kind of like when you root your phone, or when you want to put a custom firmware on your router. You're going to, put DDWRT or Tomato or OpenWrt or whatever the hell you put on those these days. You'll put it in device firmware update mode, and then connect to the USB using a micro USB. So that's another thing you'll need to have, is a micro USB. If you only have USB-C, hopefully you've got an adapter or something that will potentially work. So 100% less evil. I don't know about 100% less. It's definitely less evil. But the other thing is, you will have to have whatever it is. I'd imagine that you've you might still need that server, that home server somewhere. So you're going to want to put that somewhere that's not going to get rebuilt every 20 days. Or if your Raspberry Pi goes down, you're also not going to be able to control your thermostat until you set everything back up again. So yeah, there you go. Oh yeah, the other interesting thing was some place called Fulu, which is it's a bounty for, I think, open source type applications. Where's the Fulu thing? Yeah, they exist to inform, mobilize, and equip customers to take back control of devices and content. They expose anti-consumer practices, challenge legal frameworks that enable them. So like right to repair kind of stuff. If you have heard of the tractor issue, the John Deere issue for the past few years, where you've got farmers going to Russian websites to pull down firmware so they can flash and update, because in some cases they weren't even able to repair their own stuff. So if you put in a third or an aftermarket part or some third-party part that is, a couple $100 cheaper than a John Deere labeled part, you'd have to get a technician to do that or flash it yourself. And so there's opportunities out there for that. Do you expect me to spend my own money to buy the device for the chance to win a bounty? No, we're hoping that somebody who already has access to one of the items, whether they own it, their friend owns one, they work with it, it's been thrown away at a local recycling facility, etc., sees this and takes a stab at it. Okay, that's pretty cool. No, they do not have loaner devices to give you. You will probably need to purchase it, or like they said, find it at a local recycling center. Why are entries limited to the U.S.? Limited entrance to those based in the U.S. for two reasons: legal certainty under 1201 of the DMCA. While other countries have laws that are similar, the exact thresholds for criminal and civil liability can vary. We wish to avoid unnecessary risk. Right. Makes sense. So yeah, if you have a first or second generation Nest thermometer that no longer works, and you're not in the dead of winter where you're having to worry about, heating and or cooling your house, give it a shot. But understand there's some risk there. But if you want to be able to control your thermostat from your, bed without having to get up and walk downstairs on a cold floor, do what you do. Okay? Yeah. The other thing, there was another story that I'd read, very interestingly. Those dumb thermostats that have now gone end of life and you can no longer control via home automation. They're still transmitting information to Google. You can't control them, but they're still sharing data to Google, which is kind of crazy. So yeah, they've turned off remote control functionality, but it hasn't stopped them from collecting data from the devices. After digging through a back-end, researcher found that first and second gen learning thermostats are still sending Google about manual temperature settings, whether a person is present in the room, because it has a motion sensor or something on it, whether if the sunlight is hitting the device, and more. So this is why I remembered the Fulu thing. It's a right to repair advocacy organization co-founded by a repair technician and YouTuber Louis Rossmann. So yeah, they came up with a solution to restore functionality to the devices, which we just talked about. So while you can't control them, Google's still harvesting the data from those devices. So, I imagine that if you disabled the telemetry collection from Google, I don't know if they could send you a kill command, but then, you might get lucky. I don't know. After cloning Google's API to create custom software, he started receiving a trove of logs from customer devices, which he turned off. On these devices, while Google, turned off access to remotely control them, they did leave the ability for the devices to upload logs. And the logs are pretty extensive. In attempting to reverse engineer his device, he found that all these logs were being sent to Google, and so he black holed that and turned that off. Sounds like it didn't change any kind of functionality on the device, unlike the vacuum cleaner we saw earlier. But yeah, they will continue to report logs for issue diagnostics, which, are you going to be able to get access to those, or how are you going to know that your thermometer is no longer working, short of you trying to turn it on or off manually. Though the data the company is collecting no longer appears to be useful, right? Although these contain technical details such as HVAC error codes, Google can no longer use that information to assist the customers who depend on these thermostats, since support has fully been discontinued, even in cases of device failure. So yeah, if you call Google and ask them, hey, I'm getting a weird error code on my thermostat, what does that mean? It sounds like they couldn't even tell you in support, hey, this is what the error code is, or what to do about it, which kind of sucks. So it sounds like the users who prefer to stop providing these logs can simply disconnect their device from Wi-Fi. Okay, so you just disconnect from Wi-Fi and you're not sending those logs. Granted, I mean, it will still work as a dumb thermometer forever. I guess in this case, you can disconnect it from Wi-Fi. I don't know if there's any reason why you wouldn't want to do that. But if you want to use the FTW thing that they've got, you would have to reconnect it to Wi-Fi. And then ideally, you'd want a black hole, maybe any telemetry that's being sent to Google. So, I was under the impression Google connection would be severed along with the remote functionality. However, the connection is not severed. It's just a one-way street. So FTW awarded the engineer another winner $14,772. Wow. Okay. Oh, so this is interesting. So this bounty is when you add a feature to the system. So like adding a feature to bring smart features back online to support them. And instead of finding a vulnerability, you're adding functionality. It's an interesting facet of a bug bounty program I haven't thought about before. If you could say, hey, because I mean, you see that all the time in third-party software that is meant to, when you root a device or something like that, it adds functionality, it brings functionality or ability. That's an interesting facet. If you could give innovation awards or, interesting concept. I've never thought of that. That's pretty cool. They updated this on the 17th. I guess when this was initially ran, Google hadn't replied. Seems like Google doesn't really care too much about end-of-life devices, which is pretty nice, I guess. That they're not bricking them like A11 is, or the iLife folks are doing with the vacuum cleaners. I could see those being two different things. Like the vacuum cleaner is one for being able to control it around the house because it's not storing the telemetry logs, or it's not storing the map anywhere on the device locally because there's no storage or something maybe. So it's making the API calls to the server. Vacuum's like, okay, when do I turn left? Well, you're gonna turn left here. You're gonna turn left, right. Turn left right now. Or you're gonna run this program, which is this map. Like the owner only wants you to do the dining room on Tuesdays and then the whole house on Saturdays. It's Saturday, so you're going to run this program, pull that down into memory and run that. There's no long-term storage on the device. I don't know that for a fact, but that would be the reason why you would want to have that telemetry server there, because you're needing to communicate between the server and the vacuum. Maybe that engineer needs to take and create a telemetry server locally that he can upload his telemetry data to, his KML files or what have you. Still sounds like the system needs Google Cartographer to be able to do things like making the KML or the shape files or the map files for that, but it is what it is. Oh yeah, let me post that up into chat here. We're about to go to dinner here in about 15 minutes, so I'm going to go and find one of the more interesting items here. How to respond to security questionnaires was pretty good. Single click how Lunar Spider enabled a 2-month intrusion. I just put that one in so we could just talk about it, but it's from the DFO report, folks. Let me post a link to that one real quick. The case study talking about an intrusion using a malicious JavaScript file. I'm going to go ahead and pop that one in here just so y'all can read it. I'm not going to go over that one. We talk about the surfboarding dog, or yeah, that one later about the raccoons getting domesticated was kind of an interesting story. So this is a story from Ross Haliuk, and this one came from the 24/7 security folk. Paste. There we go. And it's talking about, nobody gets credit for fixing security problems that never happened, which really resonated with me. Working in at a company where it was like, get to compliance, but don't go to security. And that's where you get the idea that compliance is like here, and security is a little bit better than compliance. And when you have people and appetites and thoughts at your company, it's like, oh, we just need to get to compliance. We just need to, get to compliance. It would be great if we could go that extra route, but you're going to be hard pressed to get the compliance or the GRC folks to go, yeah, why do we need to go that much better, right? We're meeting everything we need to do to get our things done. Why do we need to go any higher? That was my experience at a couple of places that I've worked at. He says, when you read this article, you'll realize that security is not unique in facing problems it does, but that our industry amplifies a lot of the challenges common in other fields and makes them harder to tackle. Yes. Working smarter, not harder. If you've ever done that, so we have incidents, tickets, alerts, all causes fatigue. Everything is on point. Everything is on fire. The amount of work is overwhelming. It's impossible to ever reach a point where the team has time to pursue more strategic initiatives. That's the long-term planning. When we need to upgrade our Exchange server, and that's going to require this work to do. But then it's like, oh, we got 15 other, we got 15 Jira tickets in this morning for this, POS software that we've had, and we're trying to update, but it's going to take time. The firefighting, the tactical, very in the weeds kind of discussions versus more operational, strategic planning or work. In this case, you have less time to do that when you've got a bunch of firefighting. So yeah, this is why the authors describe working harder as better before worse. At first, working harder leads to immediate improvements, but over time things get worse, right? In general. So you may have, you may be maintaining, right? You're maintaining, but you're not improving things on the back end, or what's the root cause of this thing? Well, it's because we have an ancient Exchange server that's sitting on old hardware that is prone to hardware failures. Okay, well, we're gonna replace the hard drive in it, but it's from 2011, right? The server's from 2011, not as fast as it could be. We wanted to move to the cloud, but because of reasons we can't do that. And it's like, well, okay, let's try to do that next week. And then it's like, oh, here's another issue. We've got a file server over here that's doing this thing. So yeah, plays out foundational work like asset inventory, refactoring IAM, designing network segments, documenting architectures, implementing zero trust slows everything down initially. And it can be hard to see how it would immediately reduce incidents, but over time, operational improvements give people additional time and effort. So I think there's a good diagram here that this one has shown. It's like when you're working harder, yeah, you look like you're improving, but over time, you're actually going to cause more work for yourself. And when you're thinking strategically or working smarter, trying to solve not the immediate issue or the tactical issue, it looks like you've got nothing done, or you're actually doing worse in the short term. But over the long term, you're going to be spending less time less effort dealing with things. So it's like, maybe there's a manpower issue where you're working that issue, but yes, if you have effort, time spent improving is going to increase, but your time spent working your time improving is going to decrease, but you're spending more time working the tactical issues. Whereas if you spend more time improving, you were going to spend less time dealing with incidents or issues or outages or things that are going to cause you more problems. So, and again, here you've got, over time, you're going to have less capability because you're going to be spending more manpower or time or budget fixing the little things instead of, working the longer term issues. The initial upgrades are going to give you more capability. You're going to have less outages because you won't have that server that's going to be failing, or that service that needed to be updated or upgraded, or IAM, provisioning of users. If you spend a lot of your time, re-provisioning, or your permissions are all messed up, spending that time fixing the permissions issues on the back end, or whatever long-term issue that you want to work on is gonna help you from a capability point of view. Good security is destroyed by shortcuts. It can be said that security is destroyed by shortcuts, not just those of people across the organization, but shortcuts security teams themselves are taking, right? When they're pressured to do more with less time, they have to cut corners. So, you'd be like, just put this thing in and it's going to work for now. We're going to get it fixed. Well, it works maybe well enough that, temporary is the most permanent thing you can have in an organization, right? Shortcuts are tempting because of a substantial delay between cutting corners and the consequence decline in capability. For example, supervisors who defer preventative maintenance often experience a grace period in which they reap the benefits of increased output. So you're putting off, that patch, or you're putting off the upgrade of that server, and it's like, great, we've got all this extra time to do stuff, and then it's like that server is going to fail. Now you've dropped, right? That goes back up here to this. It's like you're doing great. You got all this extra time up here, and it's like, oh no, the server's down. Now you've got no time, all hands on deck, fixing all these things. How could this have been prevented? Well, we could have updated the server 6 months ago, that kind of thing. For rank and file folks or security people, you're going to say, well, management wouldn't give us this or what have you. That is a valid point. And, that's one thing you need to, we all need to work on in this case. Research suggests that people generally assume that cause and effect are closely related to space and time. All right, now we're getting our space-time continuums on here. To explain a puzzling event, we look for another recent nearby event that might have triggered it. People also tend to assume each event has a single cause, underestimate time delays. I never underestimate. I always try to add, just like Scotty on Star Trek, I always try to add 30% to my timelines. Because the minute I have to go to another team for help or assistance or flip this button or do this thing or whatever, you're now on their timeline, and your priority is not their priority. So I always try to add at least 30% if I'm including one team. I may add 50% more time depending on how many teams I've got there, because if I have to go to this team and they're dependent on this team, I then have to go to that team and say, hey, can you do this for this team so I can do this? And then now you're like, managing that is a pain in the ass. So don't ever tell somebody 2 weeks because you think it will take 2 weeks, because you don't know that team, you don't know that team. Or you may know that team and you may know that team, and it really is going to take 2 weeks because it really should only take about 3 days. This was a good article. I don't want to, it goes on quite a bit, but creating a firefighter creates a hero culture. I think we've seen that a lot at organizations where you've got that one guy who can come in and solve everything. That's where you get the institutional knowledge or the tribal knowledge, where, oh yeah, Bob knows how to fix that. If you've ever read the book, something project, security book, Phoenix Project. You had Brad, the IT guy, who completely overwhelmed, but he knew where everything was. You come to him, he'd be able to fix it for you, or he'd be able to solve the problem for you because he knew exactly where to look, where the problem was, how to fix the problem. And you run into, nobody will ever get credit for fixing problems that never happened. That's pretty funny. But you end up with, 1 or 2 people that know how to do everything, and you're not sharing that knowledge. So Brad looks like a miracle worker, like Scotty. You can always solve the problem no matter what. And so reading this makes it clear that while security is certainly not the only place where people struggle to buy themselves time and space to work smarter, not just harder, it is surely a good example of this phenomenon. I think you see that not just in security. I think you can see that in project management. I think you can see that in just management in general. Nobody ever gets credit for fixing a problem that never happened, right? You upgraded the server, great. That means you won't have to worry about downtime anymore. you're not going to get kudos necessarily for that unless you can just figure out how to frame it in such a way as like, I've removed, we had 10 issues last month because of this server. Server's gone now, so now we're going to save X number of hours based on these 10 things that happened. We spent 5 hours fixing it every time. That's 50 hours. That's 2 person days worth of work. No, that's a person week. I'm assuming 24 hours, but it's really 8. But if you're on incident response, it's not an 8-hour workday, right? So I was thinking 2 whole work days of work, but it would be more than a person week of time, right? Let's see. I think this is a book, right? 3 Ds of preemptive cybersecurity: deceive, deny, and disrupt. Automated to, I think this is probably a, where is the book this person is talking about? Cyber for Builders, there it is. Essential Guide to Building a Cybersecurity Startup. Oh, okay. It was written in 2023, which means they may or may not be talking about AI stuff there, but I think you probably talk about AI in terms of automation, if you want to. There's an article here. About time to get off anyway here, so I will post this up. I thought I'd have time to talk about the skateboarding dog, but I don't think we're going to. No audio book of this, but it will be in Kindle, and Kindle will do text to audio if you want to read that. So the last one I had here was that trash pandas are apparently showing signs of domestication. They're evolving a shorter snout. They're cute. Look at this little piece of shit here is getting inside of a dumpster. And they're talking about raccoons living in urban areas are physically changing in response to life around humans, an early step in domestication. We didn't domesticate the dog. The dog got used to us, or the wolf got used to us and domesticated itself, basically. Study lays out the case that domestication is wrongly initiated by humans, with people capturing and selectively breeding the animals, but as the author claims, the process begins much earlier when animals become habituated to human environments. We've seen that, with, I don't know, ever lived in an area with deer? I used to live in a place called Snoqualmie, and we had deer in our neighborhood, and they were not afraid of us. I could walk up to one, and it would just look at me, Bambi's mom with Bambi, and they're like, what? I'm standing here, I'm eating. The only time they would tend to get a little scared would be when the dogs bark at them or when the car comes by. But even the cars, they would just kind of lope slyly across the road. Kind of funny. But anyway, that's the skateboarding dog for the week. I just found that to be an interesting article about how raccoons and trash pandas are finding themselves getting domesticated because they're getting used to humans. So if you've ever watched The Great Outdoors, same thing. Except they're a little more happy. This was article study was being done at the University of Arkansas, Little Rock, for my wife's alma mater. She's a Razorback. So. Proto dogs would have dug through human trash heaps. Cats were attracted to mice that gathered around refuse. Over time, individual animals had a reduced fight or flight response that could feed more successfully around humans and pass non-reactive behavior onto their offspring. Exactly. So, like the deer that we had in Snoqualmie, deer weren't afraid of us. They knew we weren't going to shoot them. I've never been that close to a deer in my life. When you would walk out at night and you would shine your light across the soccer pitch, you'd see 2 eyeballs, about 30 feet away, and you're like, oh shit, I'm gonna die. And then you just realize it's Bambi's mom, and scare the shit out of you. But then it's like, oh yeah, just Bambi's mom. Okay. There were about 5 or 6 of them that would run around in the Snoqualmie area that I would like to keep track of during the winter time to see if I could find out where they were. So. But if you are interested in evolution of animals and domestication of the trash pandas, go check out that. Man, so cute, look at you. Anyway, I'm going to go and hope everybody has a good rest of their day. Thank you all for listening to me, all the lurkers and all the people who are here. And I'll see about coming on later this week. There's no guarantees. Depends on if I've got any interviews or something. I've got some homework from a couple of the jobs that I've interviewed for, including some OSINT that I've been working on for a job that I would really like to have. but I gotta bone up on some things. So nothing code related. The one that was code related I actually sent over to Walt because I was like, he's good at this. Um, but yeah, I've got some potential homework for a couple of jobs that I've gotta do. So yeah, hope everyone has a good day. Take care. Be safe. Go outside and see the sun if you can. Try to break up your monotony if you can, and take care of yourselves. Because as I'm fond of saying, you're the only you have. Okay? Take care. Bye, everybody.